Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the next episode of the BRIO in the Box podcast. Matching outfits.
Samesies edition.
Samesies.
Or even wearing both black pants.
Yes, I didn't even plan that part. Obviously, you were wearing that shirt first, and then I ran down to the closet and picked the one that matches you.
Yeah.
Yay.
We're losers.
I mean, I think that's well known by now. Okay, so we're going to continue our theme for 2024 of like questions from the community and things inspired by all of the cool people that make up CrossFit BRIO.
Mm-hmm.
Also doing a roundup of like fun things that we've learned just from different stuff that we listen to or read or things out there in the world. So what's something new or interesting that you have for us today? What's a fun fact?
This is very important. I learned that there are 150 trillion mosquitoes in the world.
Oh.
Isn't that crazy?
And all of them can fuck off.
That's so many mosquitoes.
Yeah. And don't they say that if they all did die out, that it actually wouldn't affect the ecosystem at all?
They're not sure. Their hypothesis is that it would be fine, that all like birds and stuff that eat them would be fine.
Yeah.
There's enough other stuff, but that's one of those like movie worst case scenario things that might be fine. Like on paper, it's fine. And then you do it and then the end of the world happens. So
yeah,
it's kind of that's a big roll of the dice.
I feel like I've heard mosquitoes are the deadliest, plant or animal on earth. Like they kill the most humans of anything. We're all afraid of like sharks and bears, but it's actually mosquitoes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like the malaria mosquitoes, right?
It's not Sharknado.
Yeah.
Like you would think it is.
There's
it's
also
not the cocaine bear.
It's not cocaine bear can only take down so many humans himself.
Yeah.
But like 110 trillion mosquitoes, that's quite the army.
That is quite the army.
And there's 7 chickens for every human in the world at any one time.
That I believe.
Yeah.
We eat a lot of chickens, like humans now.
Us personally too.
Us personally, yeah. That reminded me when I did bodybuilding years ago. I remember some competition, the girl that won gave an acceptance speech or something. I remember she was talking and she was like, I would like to thank all of the chickens that gave their life to the dieting that went into me prepping for this show.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that was funny.
Whenever we have just quick and easy meal for the kids, it's often when you're at work, I just do chicken wings in the air fryer for them. Mm-hmm. And like you think about, we have this basket full of chicken wings. It's like, that's, 50 chickens worth of wings in that one little basket, and that's just like the 3 of us boys eating those. That's a lot of chickens.
Yeah, it's a lot of chickens, a lot of birds.
Yeah. Other fun fact. So we both started listening to this Secret Life of Groceries, and it's definitely, it's kind of overwritten. He's trying to be very poetic in the way he's writing and stuff, but it is very interesting. And it's kind of a brief history of like where grocery stores came from and the whole grocery industry. Mm-hmm. And I'm only my first chapter into it, but one of the interesting things about it was how revolutionary cardboard was. Mm-hmm. Is that way back in the day, grocery stores didn't exist. You would go to a seller and he like behind the desk would have an assortment of things and you couldn't touch it. You would just point and he would recommend stuff and he would like measure and hand you jars of whatever.
Yeah, because it would be in like bulk.
Yeah.
Boxes, barrels, glass jars. Like there was no self-serve. You would go to the general store and the grocer and they serve you from behind a counter.
They sold everything, like drugs. Like you could go there and buy like morphine, and you could go there and buy rice, and you could go there and buy wherever. Mm-hmm. And then as things started to evolve, somebody created cardboard, and that revolutionized it because all of a sudden people could start handling their own groceries and you could start to advertise on them. Mm-hmm. And so the entire advertising world stemmed from the development of cardboard, because instead of just having a blank box, people realized that if you put some sort of like thing on it, it would be more appealing to more people. Mm-hmm. And so the things with labels started to sell more, and then you started like promoting your packages, and it was this like massive change in the entire economy just around cardboard.
It's interesting to think. So yeah, something boring. If you were like, what do you do? You're like, I work at the box factory. Sounds like the most boring thing on earth. But corrugated cardboard allowed things to be shipped. Mm-hmm. There really was no wholesale manufacturing, centralized like distribution of grocery products. It all had to be pretty local, and you would get it like in a barrel. And the vessels that things came in were prohibitively heavy. Yeah. For major shipping and
big
stuff.
Wooden crates and wooden barrels and stuff.
So things couldn't go very far. So then the invention of corrugated cardboard allows things to be shipped. And then the precursor to that, paperboard, like things that cereal boxes and stuff are made out of, allowed things to be centrally manufactured and then distributed and then put on a shelf. And then, like you said, that's the birth of branding.
Yeah.
There was really no way of differentiating my flour from your flour before that. It was all just the same. And then a brand name became a thing that built trust in the consumer, and they started to make claims of mine's superior to yours and you should pay extra for mine. It's the whole thing is just born out of somebody thought of heavy duty paper.
Yeah.
What?
And it talks about, you know, the way the grocery store evolved, where they went from just standing and pointing and asking about stuff or having a salesperson that would tell you what you should get to be like setting up these like long winding aisles that you would walk down and you could see and touch and, you know, interact with all these different products. And it just like completely changed consumerism. It's like, it's pretty bananas. It's an interesting book so far.
Yeah. I don't know what that category of book would be called, where it's history, but told through just the sort of coincidental development of how things happened and the major butterfly effect of fairly simple things that happened. This one is one of that. We've read one called A History of the World in Six Glasses by Tom Standage.
That one's really good as well.
That's also, I would recommend that for a road trip.
They talk about the history of like tea and coffee and alcohol and beer and, you know, all the different types of soda. Yeah.
And how our love for these beverages basically changed the face of global trade. It was like the root cause of slavery and globalization and shipping, just because people love getting a buzz from caffeine, or they love rum, or they love sugary beverages, and the impact that those kind of things had. The British and their tea, and you know, the history of how that starts the opium epidemic in China to fix the balance of trade, like crazy kind of stuff. Jen Ashley Wright's book, Get Well Soon, on the history of pandemics through time, is written before COVID. Love that book. Definitely recommend it.
It is a good one.
10 Drugs.
10 Drugs was interesting.
Super interesting on the 10 most popular pharmaceutical drugs and their history and evolution, how they came to be.
They talk about like the birth control pill and like...
It's all pharmaceuticals.
The blue pill. Yeah, it's all the, you know, interesting medical pills across the history of time. That was a good one too.
So morphine is one of them, and the history of opiates and all the way back to the 1700s, how they were discovered. And, you know, opiate addiction is not new. It's been a scourge on society for a few hundred years. Anyway, that's like a divergence, but there's a few of those books. I don't know what the category of them would be called. It's like historical storytelling. Kind of. Yeah.
What'd you learn?
Okay. So something interesting from Tommy Wood. He's done a bunch of presentations with CrossFit. He was at the CrossFit for Health Summit that I went to in Austin. It was actually a presentation, or he was on a podcast with Kelly Starrett that I had listened to. And he was talking about how muscle mass doesn't actually track with longevity, with health span and lifespan, nearly as well as muscle function. And so it's a subtle differentiation between those two things, but very important, where he was saying just doing a like DEXA scan, a body composition scan, and seeing how much like you have fat mass and non-fat mass, and all your non-fat mass is your muscle and your bones and the, you know, watery parts of you and all that. That the amount of lean body mass you have doesn't actually matter as much as what you can do with it. So you can gain lean body mass alongside gaining body fat.
Right.
So that's the thing. That's an anabolic process. So if you've put yourself in an anabolic process of overfeeding and hyperinsulinemia, it will, for the most part, grow muscle tissue alongside fat tissue. But that's not the stuff that makes you live longer. But if you have good muscle function, so measurements of things like I talk about all the time, the sitting rising test and grip strength and, you know, carrying capacity, and, you know, if you could measure like a back squat and a deadlift, those kinds of things, muscle function, actually track with not just health span, or not just lifespan, but health span. And the interaction of those two things, because he's a neuroscientist, comes from the brain, right? The brain's, your neurological ability to make your muscles do things, right? And the only way you develop those neural pathways is through using them, right? That you have to exercise, you have to use your muscles. So it doesn't really matter if you're carrying around a lot of lean body mass if you can't sit on the ground and get back up again under your own power without help. If you can't hang from a bar, if you can't carry your own groceries, if you can't go up and down the stairs, like if you don't have the neurological connections of balance and coordination to make that lean body mass function. So I thought that was interesting, because I talk about muscle mass as being important all the time, and sarcopenia, the loss of muscle mass, as being such a risk factor for mortality. But that was a subtle thing where I was like, oh, that does make sense. Right. And there is a difference between muscle mass and muscle function.
So there's a large population of like former athletes out there that are like quite big people, right? They're like, they used to be in their youth, well muscled, thick, like big, like refrigerator type guys. And then as they start to age, they stop working out, they stop exercising altogether. They, you know, gain a whole bunch of body fat from eating poorly and continuing to grow and bulk. And they look like still massive dudes, but the functionality of their muscles is probably very limited because of their lack of movement. So those are the types of people that this would probably most apply to, the ones that like are well muscled, but not like functional. Would that be accurate?
I don't know that I would agree with that, because I think they would have had functionality. They would have built like basically your myelinating neurons, right? When you fire things and the myelin sheath that covers, you're basically a watery bag of meat full of electricity.
Yeah.
Electricity doesn't flow well in water. So the electrical signals, the wires, the neurons have to be insulated from the water. So it's a fatty sheath that covers your neurons called myelin.
Yeah.
The more you fire it, the thicker that gets, the faster the signals go. So that's how humans get better at anything, right? Throwing a ball, sprinting, playing the piano, like anything that requires, you know, neural firing. But myelin doesn't go away
Right.
for any reason other than like advanced aging. So eventually it would go away. And certain degenerative diseases like multiple sclerosis is the destruction of myelin, the early destruction of myelin. So, but if you were like a 45-year-old former football player and I guess if you went to be completely sedentary, you would be losing muscle mass that you used to have. But if you were eating enough protein and doing some level of activity to just maintain, you're obviously not putting on new muscle protein synthesis, but you're maintaining what you have. That's not as much of the problem, I don't think.
So who do you think would be the type of person that would have muscle mass that wasn't like useful?
Well, I think the average obese person.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like that level of muscle mass.
I think if you did a body scan of the average obese person, you would find a decently high absolute amount of lean body mass on top of, or in addition to, a very high amount of fat mass. Gotcha. If you just went the amount of lean body mass, if say pounds of it, of an obese person compared to a normal weight person, they might be the same or even higher than a normal weight person. But just because they have more lean body mass doesn't mean that they're going to live longer than the normal body weight person who has less absolute amount of lean mass.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So if you took like a 120 pound person that had, 30 pounds of body fat and the rest was lean mass.
Yeah.
Even though that 250 pound person might have more total lean mass because it's not a useful level of lean mass, it wouldn't be as good as being like 120 with less.
90 pounds of lean mass, say 120 pounds of lean mass in that obese person, and you're like, who's going to live longer?
Right.
The person with the 90 pounds of lean mass but better muscle function and less body fat is probably going to have the better mortality than the 250 pound person with 120 pounds of lean body mass. But that's why like sometimes more lean body mass is in athletes, but sometimes it's in hyperanabolic obese people.
That makes sense for sure.
Yeah. But then there is like an emerging thing called sarcopenic obesity, which is
like no muscle mass
co-occurring. Very high percentage of body fat and very low percentage of muscle tissue or lean body mass.
I guess just like anything, you can't just look at one number and be like, this is the thing. There's so many variables. It's not just lean muscle mass. It's not just whatever. It's that makes sense.
Because if you just look at lean body mass, the data is clouded. You're seeing two groups of people that are very different.
Right.
You're seeing obese people with high lean body mass and athletes. You're mixing them together. And the signal you're getting isn't a good signal. Whereas if you do muscle function, you took out all the obese people with high lean mass, and now you're getting a good signal of just, basically the highly trained, fit people.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Sarcopenic obesity can happen all the way from in utero, which is really unfortunate. If the mother doesn't eat enough protein while she's pregnant, the muscle cells are multinucleated. They're the cells that have more than one nucleus because they need to replicate so much. They need to replicate so much DNA. But if the mother, while she's pregnant, doesn't eat enough protein, that baby will forever have undernucleated muscle cells. They'll just never be able to grow muscle tissue like a baby that came from a mom that had adequate protein. So low protein diets are lifelong danger for the health of that fetus that turns into a human.
Yeah.
So then a baby born to a mother with poor nutrition may be at a lifetime increased risk of diabetes, obesity, sarcopenia, low muscle function, all that kind of stuff, which is unfortunate because once it's done, it's done. There's nothing that person can do about that.
Right.
On the muscle function side, they can manage their diet to not be obese and manage their diet to not become diabetic, but it's much harder.
Yeah.
For sure. And it makes me worry in the sort of trend right now of this big fad diet of vegan and vegetarian diets, especially for women. They're particularly vulnerable to that message. And you're like, what is happening to a generation of babies being born into that low protein environment?
Not good.
Not good.
Okay, we're moving on.
Okay,
Next
so
topic.
Questions from the community.
Yes.
And you already kind of mentioned this. Costco. What do you buy at Costco?
Yeah.
One of them is the frozen chicken wings.
We spend a lot of money at Costco.
We do. Yeah. You got to get the WestJet MasterCard so you can put it on there. And then we get like a free flight or two every year out of the WestJet dollars just from the grocery budget at Costco.
We just booked a flight.
We did.
It's paid for with our Costco bucks. Yeah.
Okay. So what do we buy at Costco? The frozen chicken wings in the box in the freezer section. They're literally just chicken wings. There's nothing else added to them. No seasoning, no seed oils, nothing. They're just like ice frozen, basically. Throw them right in the air fryer for 30 minutes from frozen. They come out nice and crispy. So super easy. Weeknight dinner, you're in a hurry, or like after school snack for the kids or whatever when you need some protein in a hurry.
A little salt and pepper, a little Frank's Red Hot, good to go.
Love it. So that's one. We always have chicken wings in the freezer. Other major things, we get a good chunk of meat from Costco.
Yeah.
Chicken thighs, ribs, ground beef. I do like to get big chunks of ground beef from Arlie at Farm 140, the grass-fed stuff, but she doesn't always have it because it depends when she's butchering cows. So it's not like Costco where you can just show up and expect to get it.
Yeah.
We go through a ridiculous amount of ground beef in this house. The kids love it. We love it.
Ridiculous.
Like a ridiculous amount of ground beef. There's always 3 pounds of ground beef cooked in the fridge for just instant meals.
It's literally a revolving thing. As soon as it's empty, we just cook another one, and there's just constant taco beef ready to go.
Constant taco beef. We don't eat a ton of vegetables, but some of the produce we do get. Dash loves bell peppers. Like he would just eat half a dozen of them every day for some reason. He just loves them.
Slow him down for eating them because
he'll make his stomach upset with the number of vegetables he'll eat.
He'll just eat it like an apple.
Yeah. Baby carrots, cucumbers,
yeah.
That kind of stuff. Apples,
yeah.
Sometimes big bags of potatoes. Dash won't eat potatoes. Atlas will. Russet potatoes, so we like to cook and cool them. Same thing with the rice. We'll buy the big bags of jasmine rice, cook it in bone broth and cool it. There's almost always bone broth rice in the fridge.
Macadamia nuts.
Macadamia nuts. I have to portion them out, like because they're expensive, so you can't eat the whole bag in a day.
And if you did, God, you'd feel gross.
And B, because they're like very rich and like high calorie. So I have this little container and I like scoop one little scoop every day. I like to have them with my coffee in the morning. And,
they're definitely one of those foods that's like reasonably healthy in smaller amounts, but you can easily overeat those.
Yeah. Of the nuts, they're the lowest in omega-6, in linoleic acid, and they're pretty low in carbohydrate too. Yeah. So, and they're, if you look at the ingredients, not roasted with sunflower oil or safflower or anything. Yeah. Cashews, watch out for those. The Costco ones have seed oils on them. And cashews are higher in starch, so they are actually much easier to overeat because they're that deadly hyper palatable combo of sugar and fat, carbs and fat, basically.
I can eat a metric ton of cashews for sure.
Especially the like roasted salted ones.
Yeah. We don't keep those in the house because they're too easy. Too
tasty. Simple dinner things. The Rouse marinara sauce in the jar and the butter chicken sauce, I think, is the one. There's two that are like, you look at the ingredients, it's all stuff you can pronounce and you could make.
The butter chicken has a little bit of canola oil, but it's like a very small amount. When you look at how much fat is in the butter chicken sauce and like how much PUFAs, it's quite low amount, but there is a teeny bit. So you could, if you wanted to, you could be super hardcore and make your own butter chicken sauce. But as far as convenience goes, it's great.
The primary fat is cream or coconut cream in that one? I can't remember.
I think it's coconut cream.
So yeah, we usually have a couple jars of those in the cupboard for, again, like quick, cook up some chicken, throw the butter chicken sauce on it, or cook up some ground beef, throw the marinara sauce on it. Yeah. The Italian sausage you can get in the fresh meat section at Costco also is pretty good in terms of ingredients, nothing weird and wheat crumbs and extra fillers and additives. So I'll usually keep a bunch of it, just cut the casings off and cook it up like ground beef and keep it in the freezer. And if I make a quick marinara sauce, I'll throw in like a handful of Italian sausage with it for a little extra flavor. The peanut butter.
Yeah.
Just the natural peanut butter. It's just peanuts and salt. The mayo, the avocado oil mayo, the Chosen Foods mayo, definitely the best price on that stuff. Don't need a ton of that, but like the occasional egg salad or tuna salad or something.
Yeah.
It's the best price on the non-seed oil mayo. I'm trying to think. I just went to Costco the other day.
Yeah. It's always remarkable how you can go fill a grocery cart and be like, okay, well, this isn't too bad. And you go and it's $800.
Yeah.
Fuck.
We usually have bubbly.
Yeah.
The
Toilet
big
paper.
brick of cheese. Toilet paper cost Kirkland. Got to get that Kirkland brand.
Yeah.
Get the socks there. Everybody's got the Costco socks.
The Pumas.
Barefoot Tuesday, we see that everybody buys their socks at Costco. The Puma socks.
Puma socks.
The Puma socks. So yeah, I mean, if you looked at the cart, it's meat, veggies, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar.
And I'm not like gonna kid you. Anytime I do walk around Costco, all those breads and pies and delicious desserts that are like abundant look delicious, but like you just can't buy a Costco size amount of that kind of stuff. You know, if you're going to have a little treat once in a while, don't buy a Costco sized amount, because then you have a pie this big, you know, or you have 3 loaves of bread instead of 1.
Yeah.
Those are the types of things that we'll either try to make ourselves, or if we are going to have it once in a blue moon, we get a much smaller sized version.
Yeah. You know what? Walking past that stuff doesn't even bother me anymore. I don't even see it. It just is. It's like walking past the thing of cigarettes at the gas station. I'm not being like, oh, I could really go for a smoke right now. You're like, ugh, I do not do that shit.
Yeah.
You know, to buy a Costco thing of Danishes or whatever, I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah, but you're not as into that kind of stuff as a lot of people. I enjoy that stuff more than you do, I think. Anytime we've ever had that kind of stuff, you always just immediately regret it.
I do.
And I'm always like, I could eat another one of those right now.
I have my vices for sure, but like baked goods is not the top one. Okay, next question. Somebody brought me a picture of the label of those little baby puffs and said, what do you think of these things?
That's like a baby cigarette?
Yeah, basically. May as well be, frankly.
Well, it's not that bad.
Is it though? I don't know. Because anyway, that's an aside. Pause that thought. We'll come back to that. So those little baby puffs, they're always like circles or stars. They come in the little Gerber plastic containers or sometimes the zip top containers, and they're meant for babies to pick up and work on their dexterity and snack on. Mm-hmm. They're literally just ultra processed food marketed to babies. Like people should be offended that shit exists, because there's a big First Steps Nutrition, I think it's called, in the UK. It's a charity, did a major study, released this huge document on the state of food marketed to kids and babies. And they found that 30% of the food on the shelves marketed to babies is ultra processed food.
Yeah.
And you're like, what are we doing here as a society? What are we doing? And people are just not thinking about it. They just see the label. They have some misplaced trust and like, oh, Gerber, and there's a picture of a cute baby on the package. And like, this must be for babies. And not, I guess, flipping it over and seeing that it's like literally processed starch and sugar.
Yeah.
And sometimes seed oils. And you're like, what are we doing? That is not food. That's a marketing gimmick to get a child's palate anchored with their taste preferences for like starch and sugar, get that anchored as high as possible, as early as possible. Mm-hmm. It's the same reason that McDonald's has Happy Meals, because they want kids to associate warm, fuzzy memories with their brand. It's the same reason that Camel's cigarettes used to use a cartoon character, is because they want kids to associate positive things with their brand. When the public sentiment towards the tobacco companies started to shift, the tobacco companies started buying up processed food companies. Philip Morris bought Kraft Foods.
Yeah.
Philip Morris was one of the major makers of cigarettes. And so they just took everything they knew about marketing, you know, to create an addictive product and market it to all kinds of people and as early as possible. And they just shifted it to processed food. And so now it's, you know, I've said this before, it's not that the processed food companies are like the tobacco companies. They are the tobacco companies. They're taking everything they know about getting consumers hooked on an addictive product as early as possible and just shifting it to kids and babies. And currently we're letting it happen, you know, regulatory wise. We now have rules against, you know, you can't put cigarette ads on TV. You can't use cartoon characters to market cigarettes anymore. You can't put alcohol ads during a kids show, all this kind of stuff. We put regulations on the marketing in place, but not with processed food.
Yeah.
You know.
So that being said, what would you say is a good alternative instead of because the goal is like learning to use their hands and be snacky and something that kids will eat and enjoy. Like what's a good alternative?
Yeah. Like first foods for babies can be things like You can start with softer foods like egg yolks. I'll tell you what we fed our kids as their first foods. They teethed and gnawed on bones, rib bones. I have these cute pictures of them like gnawing on a rib bone. So they're getting these savory flavors. They're starting to get little, bits of collagen and good stuff from the bones.
And not just like a boiled, there's meat still. There's a little bit of meat.
Like if I ate a rib and then I would give it to,
not like a dog bone.
Atlas or Dash to chew on. I would make beef jerky.
Yeah.
And they would gnaw on it. Before they had teeth, they would like just gum away at it and, enjoy the flavor of it. We did soft pieces of avocado.
Yeah.
I would mix up like coconut oil and avocado together. Sometimes a little bit of apple maybe, but not much. Egg yolks was a big thing in the beginning.
We had those like mesh bag thingies too, where it's just a little net bag and you can put whatever you want in there, strawberries or meat or whatever, and they just chew on it, but it makes it so they don't choke on anything.
Yeah.
We did that more with Atlas.
Yeah.
And then you had read some new information when we had Dash, because Dash was 6 years later. And they talked about the importance of having children learn to like use their mouth and use their swallowing capacity, and that it was better for them to just actually eat the food and risk choking and throwing up. And so we're like, all right, let's give it a try. And it was quite the experiment because like Atlas never really had those types of problems. But then with Dash, we were like letting him chew on like meat and stuff before he had teeth. He would just be like gumming away on it, going crazy. And every once in a while he would just like choke and then he would be like, okay, yep, here we go. But then he would go like right back to it. He was like totally fine with it. And I don't know, apparently it's good for them.
Yeah. So this is a little bit of an aside. There's a great book called Jaws, written by a dentist and an evolutionary biologist, I believe, anthropologist, something like that. We're talking about like, why does everybody have crooked teeth these days? Everybody has the genetics for perfectly straight, healthy teeth, but it seems like almost all kids need braces. What the fuck's going on? And their take on things is that food is just too soft. So kids are not, like you said, properly using the muscles and developing the jaw, which stimulates bone growth, which stimulates the growth of the palate where they push food against the roof of their mouth. The palate should have a wide arch to allow enough room for the teeth. It develops too narrow and too high and the teeth come in all crooked.
Yeah.
So one of the things kids need to do is actually like chew real food. It's not all supposed to be blended into pastes and these little puffs that just dissolve on their tongue and everything. So yeah, we fed Dash pieces of food.
Yeah.
Before he had any teeth, we did pretty soft stuff like avocados and egg yolks.
Yeah.
Once he had some teeth, we would give him a little piece of steak and a little piece of like a cooked carrot, not a totally hard carrot, but things that he could pick up, and they push them around in their mouth, and anything that he couldn't deal with, he would just spit out.
Yeah. There'd be a few times where he would gag and he would kind of, make a weird noise and you'd be like, oh, you good, buddy? And he was always fine. But there was like, I remember 1 or 2 times where it would like actually,
like 1 or 2 maybe in his entire like babydom, but even that is they learn what to do and they develop swallowing and all these muscles that are important in their proper jaw development.
Yeah. And obviously you got to be careful with things like you can't give a baby whole grapes.
Yeah.
Because that's like choking hazard.
Yeah.
I had to give Dash the Heimlich maneuver once because of a Lego. So don't let your kids chew on Legos.
Don't eat Legos. Yeah. Don't feed them Lego. So yeah, the baby puffs, just don't do that. Don't do that processed food garbage.
Yeah.
Because it changes their palate. It changes their ability to taste real food for like forever.
Yeah.
There's a key developmental window where babies are linking taste to the nutrients that come into their stomach, and they're developing these like taste associations to things. And so if they taste what is basically like glucose, like super sweet things, and there's no nutrients associated with that, it messes up their palate's ability to manage their appetite and intake like for the rest of their life. And guess who knows that? The processed food companies know that. That's why they want babies to eat that shit, so that they'll have no ability to regulate their appetite and they'll be better consumers in the future. So
just real food.
Just feed them real food. And you can decide if it's mushed up or not. That's up to you.
Yeah. Those net bag things were great.
Yeah. And they both have nice straight teeth, both our kids. So
far,
whatever weird experiment I went on seems to be working out.
All right, moving on to this question's come up over the years because you see people are always trying to are wanting to learn new movements, right? And you see stuff on the internet and you're like, oh, I want to try it. Mm-hmm. And there's been millions of videos and there's been like tons of different scaling options and stuff. And one of them comes up is abmats on a handstand push-up. Mm-hmm. And we stopped doing that a number of years ago. Mm-hmm. And so that was the question, like, why don't we do abmats on handstand push-ups?
Yeah, it was an athlete that had come to BRIO from been at a CrossFit gym previously and we, abmat or handstand push-ups come up, go to grab the abmat. We're like, oh, actually we don't do that here.
Yeah.
Reason number one, why we used to, and then we stopped, is we care about like the main outcome that we're looking for is results. If we're going to do something, it needs to make people fitter.
Yeah.
It needs to increase their work capacity. It needs to increase their ability to do stuff. And we found people doing abmat handstand push-ups didn't help anybody get better at handstand push-ups.
Yeah.
A handstand push-up is already a shortened range of motion movement from the top of your head to the full extension of your arms. That's already half of your pressing range of motion. And to shorten it up even more, or to do 2 abmats or sometimes 3, it got to the point of being like, what are we even doing here? This is just stupid. We're not getting better at anything right now.
I've seen people using multiple abmats or stacking plates underneath an abmat, and their range of motion is like an inch or 2. And it's like, there's no benefit to that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Think about when you're doing a super heavy strict press. Generally, when people fail, they're not getting it to their head. They're failing somewhere below their face, right? They like push and it like won't go, and they drop it back down to their shoulder. So the sticking part, the most challenging part of the movement, is generally within your face range. So if you're completely bypassing that, you're already shortening your range of motion drastically. So it's one of those movements where like now, even at the CrossFit Games, they increase the range of motion by using parallettes, where your head drops down and your hands go to your shoulders. And that is a devastatingly difficult movement. Even the best athletes in the world will struggle with that. So, handstand push-ups, they're a reduced range of motion already. And that's fine to do once in a while, but you should at least do head to hands. But then the other problem is you're also lowering your body weight onto your neck. Like you're upside down and you're lowering onto your spine. And if you can't control that positioning, regardless of abmats, it's really bad for your neck. So high risk movement for not a lot of reward.
Yeah. And so we're dedicated to one thing and one thing only, and that's results. What goes into getting good results is safety.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you advance to an advanced movement without putting the appropriate prerequisite things in place first, then you just end up hurting yourself. And then then you're back to square one.
Yeah.
I always call it like snakes and ladders of fitness. If you try to like skip a step and then you're like, and you go back and now you're spending money at the physio.
Yeah.
So if you're not strong enough to do a full range of motion handstand push-up, which is to the top of your head, which is already a partial range of motion, you just should not be doing that movement yet. You just haven't put in the prerequisite pressing strength that you need to be able to do that movement. Certainly doing that movement at intensity, like in a workout.
Yeah.
So we several years ago were like, no more abmats on handstand push-ups. You need to have the strength and control to do it to your head, or your work and effort is better spent on the prerequisite things you need to do first.
Yeah. And that sort of went along with, we moved away from knee push-ups as well. We used to use knee push-ups as a scaling option. And we just realized that nobody ever really progressed to toe push-ups from the knees because it's just not nearly hard enough. Most people in the world can do knee push-ups, but there's a large percentage of people that can't do toe push-ups. And just continuing to work on knee push-ups didn't really help people, right? We realized you had to go from the toes and you had to change the height of the hands. So putting your hands on a box or a bar or whatever to make it so you could work from the toes, and you slowly work yourself lower and lower until eventually you're just flat. It's the same with handstand push-ups. If you're always taking 2 or 3 inches out of that range of motion and you're never training that range of motion, it's never going to get any better. So not only are you doing a high risk move, you're not also going to improve on it to work towards doing a full range of motion movement.
I was listening to Dave Durante. He's a big gymnast expert guy in CrossFit. I enjoy him quite a bit. He's got lots of good drills and stuff. He said something on a podcast a little while ago where he was like, I don't think anybody should do handstand push-ups with a mat.
Yeah.
I think you should only do it to the floor. And if you don't have the control to not smash your head into the floor, you shouldn't be doing them. And I was like, I could get on board with that.
Yeah.
He's
also not a fan of kipping handstand push-ups. He wants everything to be strict.
To some extent, or like you should have the capacity to do some strict ones, which I would agree with, that you should have the capacity to do strict ones first.
I don't think you can kip without a mat, right? Or it changes the kip.
Anyways. It changes the kip.
It changes like the speed and the volume which you can do.
Yeah, you have to keep more weight on your hands, which I think is the point.
Yeah,
right? To not put so much weight on your head. I'm like over the years been really good at handstand push-ups and have done a lot of volume and was like strong at them, strong presser, that kind of thing. And I am at the point now, like one of the things I don't do anymore in order to do CrossFit for the rest of my life is keeping handstand push-ups.
Yeah.
I do everything strict. And I can get on board with doing only strict with no mat for the rest of my life. That if I want to do that movement and I get to the point where on a hard floor, I'm hurting my head, I should be just doing something else because I'm just going to end up at the chiropractor 2 days later. And it's, you know, we're BRIO about longevity, CrossFit for the long term. I want people to be doing CrossFit when they're 80 and 90. We're not about jacking up your area under the curve for this year. And then 2 years from now, you're on the injured list and you can't do anything, or you hate CrossFit so much because you're all banged up and covered in tape and knee sleeves and elbow sleeves and lifters and a belt and, you know, held together with chewing gum and duct tape, like I always say.
Yeah.
The goal over time should be to take away as many of the crutches and things as possible.
I think handstand push-ups are one of those sexy movements that if every single one of us in the entire world never did another handstand push-up, it wouldn't make a difference whatsoever, right? Yeah. It's completely unnecessary, but it's fun to do. So along with trying to keep people safe and trying to like, you know, find the most effective way of training, we're still always like aware that like we have to find the balance of what people need and what people want, right? So do any of us need to do handstand push-up? No. Do some of us want to do handstand push-up? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So what's the best use of that tool to help get people, you know, where they want to be in the safest way possible?
And if you look at, this is one of the lectures at the CrossFit Level 1 about class planning, the things that happen in a 1 hour class at CrossFit. The workout of the day is the part of the program that you apply intensity to. But there's all kinds of other things that happen. You know, there's a general warm-up, there's a specific warm-up, there's a loading phase, there's a cool down. Like there's multiple things happening outside of the maybe 15 or 20 minute high intensity piece of the day. Intensity is power. The formula for power is force times distance divided by time. How much does it weigh times how far did you move it, which is the reps, like the range of motion of and how many reps you do, divided by how long it takes. And if we're trying to maximize power output, i.e. intensity, what that looks like on different days is different. On back squat day, it's how much weight you're moving. On AMRAP day, it's how many reps you're getting. On for time day, it's how fast you go. And so if we're looking at should you put handstand push-ups with an abmat in the workout of the day, of course not, because you're shortening the range of motion, so therefore you're blunting the power output of that movement that you're doing.
Yeah.
But if you're like, but I would like to work on handstand push-ups and I would like to work on some controlled negatives and I'm going to lower my head to an abmat, you know, as a drill, as a practice, then maybe that has a place. But that's a completely different thing. The practicing portion of something is a completely different thing than the training or high intensity portion of all of the things that we do in CrossFit.
Yeah.
So in addition to like the theme this year of people asking us questions, I've been really enjoying, and you have too, of asking the community questions, bringing back the question of the day and all kinds of things. So one of the ones in the beginning of January I asked is for multiple days that I was coaching in a row was like, what's something you want to get better at this year? What's like a goal? And I made people say something specific because they're not just like conditioning or like strength. You're like, tell me what that would look like and how would you know if it was better?
Yeah.
I would be able to back squat 10 pounds more. Great. I would be able to do 5 strict pull-ups. Great. Like mine's, I want to run a 7.5 minute mile. I've never done that before. Like all these things. And so we listened. I wrote them all down, put them in a spreadsheet. I love a good spreadsheet. And we kind of looked at them and looked at the common themes and categorized them. And we've been trying to really like listen and give people what they said they wanted, which was the coaching and the time and the opportunity to get better at these things.
Yeah. Big Saturday has kind of been a big part of that, right? We've tried to dedicate a day where we do more like skill work as part of the class. We do an 1.5 hour long class so that we have more time to dedicate to actually just playing around with some stuff and trying some things. We've kind of been having some class opportunities where we leave an extra 10 minutes at the end of the class for people to work on those skills and say, you know, you can leave if you want to, but if you really want to get better at that thing, like now is the time. Let's spend some time working on handstands and let's spend some time working on pull-ups or whatever.
If you put in 5 or 10 minutes a day, every time you're in the gym, 3 or 4 or 5 days a week on some strict pull-ups or some handstand holds or whatever, stretch your hips so you can have a better overhead squat, any of the things that people said that they wanted to get better at by the end of the year. It's not about showing up and drilling it for 2 hours once a month. It's little bits here and there. So
skill work is meant to be like lower intensity, it doesn't mean it has to be easy.
No, practice can be hard.
Practice can be hard, right? It's just not intense in that you're not moving quickly. You're not maxing out. You're not like pushing the intensity where you can't focus on what you're doing and you can't pay attention to when things start to go wrong. The other thing too is like being aware of when enough is enough. You know, it's one thing to jump in on a workout and it's supposed to be 5 rounds and you're grinding through one at a time handstand push-ups and your intensity is just dropping through that last 2 rounds. You know, you need to know when to switch it up. And
this is not the time for that, you know? So that's how I am with ring muscle ups.
Yeah.
I can do ring muscle ups, but not at an intensity that I currently put them in a WOD. I can do 1 on the minute for 10 minutes and like work on them. I just can't I haven't worked on them enough to earn doing them at intensity currently. They're not, you know, it's just not a skill I can do for reps and for speed. And
if you're going to do a workout like Amanda 975 muscle ups and squat snatches, that's a very difficult workout for a lot of, you know, people that struggle with muscle ups to apply intensity on. So it turns into a skill workout anyways, because you're doing 1 rep and then standing around, right? So yeah, we're just trying to like really help people differentiate between like, when are we trying to work on our fitness, which is like intensity driven, and then when are we trying to work on our skills and our goals? So we've got a new idea that we're going to be trying out now. We're always like trying to try new things, right? We've always been very good about bringing new ideas and trying them out. And if they work, we keep doing them. And if they don't, out they go.
And by working, we basically mean people show up
Yeah.
and do stuff. And it somehow helps people get fitter and better,
Yeah.
you know, for the long term. It increases work capacity, area under the curve.
Yeah. So our new idea is basically what we're going to do. We're going to start it out on Tuesday nights at 6:30 p.m. And we're just going to call it the EMOM class, for lack of a better word. But basically what we're going to do is we'll spend the first half of the class with more just like skill development time. So like I'll mostly be doing them, but basically we'll work on a skill. That might be snatches. That might be handstand walking. That might be muscle ups. That might be whatever. And then we'll usually try to pair it with some other thing that's less skill based. And then for the second part of the class, we'll do every minute on the minute or every 90 seconds or whatever. We'll just alternate doing a little bit of volume on whatever progression of that difficult thing you need to work on, and then throw it in with some extra lifting or some extra pull-ups or whatever. And that way it can still be hard. You can still move some weight or you can still work on a skill or whatever, but it's just time dedicated to like improving those 2 things. You don't have to worry about being super out of breath. You don't have to worry about for time or for score or whatever. It's just work at a level that's going to help you get better in that area.
It's practice time. Yeah.
Practice time.
Minus intensity is what practice time is.
Yeah. And again, not easy, right? Practice time can still be hard.
Yeah.
You can still challenge yourself to feel like, okay, like that was challenging. Like I did more pull-ups today than I've done ever and whatever. But it's just dedicated skilled practice time.
Yeah.
So we'll start that out on Tuesdays. We're going to start it first week of March probably. And then as always, it's one of those things where if people like it and they're showing up and it's working well, then we'll keep doing it. And if not, we'll just come up with new ideas. And
Yeah. That's one thing that we pride ourselves on, is like continuous improvement, and that we will always try new things, but we also have a good ability to abandon what's not working.
Yeah.
We're not the kind of people that will be like, well, this is the way it's always been done, therefore that's the way it always is. So the history of BRIO is littered with things that we've tried and weren't successful, or people weren't into it or didn't show up for it. And we were like, okay, well, we'll try something else, or we'll switch it up, or which is fine. We're totally open to that like process of trial and error to try to help people meet their goals and help people get better and meet the needs and give people what they want and what they need. So there was a lot of things people said they wanted to get better at. People need time to practice those things. There needs to be an intermediate between I just got one, or I'm just barely working on the mechanics of, say, like a ring muscle up, and I can put it in a workout. There's a gap in there.
Sure.
And the gap time is practice time.
Yeah.
So when we give you 5 or 10 minutes at the end of the class, you're warmed up, you're already there. This is what I always say to people. I know you plan to be here for an hour, you know, and if it's 5:20 at the end of the 4:30 class, I'm like, I know you got 10 more minutes before you had to be out of here. Like, these are your 5 or 10 get better minutes. So put in some time. We'll give you this like EMOM practice time.
Yeah.
Rotating set of skills and drills.
And it'll
Tuesdays
be like
at 6:30. And it pairs well with Tuesday's always heavy day, back squat day. Usually some kind of little sprinty conditioning thing. So then you could also before or after stick around and do some skill work.
Yeah.
So.
And it'll be a programmed and coached class. So we'll help you, because a lot of people, they just don't even know, right? They're like, well, I want to get a handstand push-up, but I don't even know what to do.
Yeah.
That'll be a chance for us to like work with you to figure it out. And then when you have those chances in the classes, you can start to do a little bit more work on it. Or if it's just like you have the strength to do a muscle up, you just don't know what to do.
Technique.
We'll learn the techniques in those sessions. So it'll be, like you said, a rotating list of different things every week, and we'll just kind of play around with a bunch of stuff, and I think it'll be good.
Yeah. There are I've made charts. I love a good chart. I was showing some people in the class the other day. I think we were working towards bar muscle ups, and I made it for the coaches, but I brought it out and showed all the people in the class. Okay. So you need to be able to, pretty much everybody when they start can do like jumping pull-ups and ring rows. And then once that's good and you have grip strength, then you can do banded strict pull-ups. And then once you get, we kind of progress down this line, and there's like checkpoints, like a road to bar muscle up, and you have to meet all these checkpoints before you advance to the next one. And then you get a strict pull-up, and then you get kipping pull-ups, and then you get kipping chest to bar, and then you work on banded bar muscle ups, and then you get real bar muscle ups, and then you get volume of real bar muscle ups, and you put them in a workout.
Right.
So we have all these things laid out, and we can help you see where you're at on the road and see the journey ahead of how to get to the destination that you want.
Yeah.
So looking forward to trying something new. My question of the day this week was what do you need to accomplish? What's on your to-do list? Which is just interesting to see what people had going on. And then what I added to everybody's to-do list was sign up for the Open. Yeah. That's what's on your to-do list this week.
Starts next Friday.
The first workout will be released Thursday, February 29th. Our first Friday Night Lights will be Friday, March 1st. See what's in store. People ask me if I know anything. I don't know anything. They don't tell me anything.
No.
They wouldn't trust me with that.
They keep it very hush-hush.
They do. There's very few people that know. Other than when I saw Boz at the CrossFit for Health Summit, he just said, it's all going to be very straight down the pipe.
Yeah.
They're trying to make things less complicated for affiliates and athletes and the judging and everything to take the complexity out of it. Yeah. CrossFit has said they didn't release an equipment list this year because they said, it's all just normal stuff. You won't need to be prepared for anything weird. They're doing away with like floor plans. So we won't need to buy $300 or $400 worth of duct tape apparently this year. Thanks for that. Much appreciated. Yeah. So I think what we'll see is just good, clean CrossFit fun.
Yeah.
It's
going to be
you're used to.
More of the stuff that you're already doing. They're not going to do any crazy, weird, like wall facing, single arm handstand push-ups into a pistol kind of stuff. Like they save that kind of stuff for the games. Even at the like regional sort of level, what do they call it now? Sectionals, quarters.
Okay, so the Open.
There's the Open,
and now
the
this year,
level.
the top 25% of people will do quarterfinals, and then from there, people qualify to go to semifinals, right, which is an in-person. So even between the Open and quarterfinals, they save a lot more of the advanced movements for quarterfinals. So generally, they just proceed with the top 25%.
So the Open tends to be the bare bones basic stuff that like most people can do, or at least do the scaled version of it. We were talking about double unders today, and somebody was like, man, if there's double unders, I'm not doing it. But you don't have to. You just do the scaled version that week, and you just do single unders, and it's fine. You can do those. Yeah. So the Open is very much just about what is the most common stuff that we do. There'll be some challenging stuff. Like they usually throw chest to bars or toes to bars or muscle ups or whatever in there, but they often make you earn getting to that thing. You have to do a certain thing before you even have to worry about the muscle ups. Mm-hmm. So they make it very accessible for a majority of people so that everybody can participate. And then there's the scaled version if you aren't quite at that level. So regardless of your abilities, one of those versions will be fine. And they've even got the foundations level, which I don't think we've ever had anybody do one of the foundations ones because they're so easy that literally somebody who's like 100 pounds overweight and has just started CrossFit could do the foundations version. They want it to be very, very accessible.
They brought that out during COVID as something that if you were in a place that was still under lockdown, you could do like at home with no equipment and just like still participate with the community.
It'll be like PVC overhead squats type stuff. Like it's very entry level. Mm-hmm. So then, that's what the Open is all about. And then when you get into the quarterfinals, that's when they start doing more of things like rope climbs and more muscle ups and maybe heavier weights and maybe whatever.
HHD sit-ups. But
it's still common stuff. It's not until you get to the semifinals and eventually the games that they start to throw the really crazy stuff at you.
Mm-hmm. And I honestly, doing the Open for us, which is the 99.9% of people in CrossFit that aren't trying to go to the CrossFit Games. CrossFit isn't the CrossFit Games. Yeah. The CrossFit Games is this teeny tiny little niche sliver of the CrossFit ecosystem. But it's what people see in the media the most, so people think that's CrossFit. It's not. CrossFit is the 4 million of us estimated worldwide that just show up for our 1 hour class a day and have fun with cool people in a fun community with a coach that cares about us because we just want to live longer and better. That's CrossFit.
Yeah.
So doing the open isn't about the competitive part of it. It's not about the leaderboard. It's not even really about the workouts. It's just about this like global community of CrossFit. And we just come together once a year, 3 Fridays in March, to do the same thing. And it's cool to be a part of this whole same thing with all these people around the world. And I think probably all of us struggle with, we're doing the thing. We're showing up in the gym and we're trying to eat better and we're trying to sleep and we're trying to look after our own health. And we all go out in our worlds of coworkers and family and friends. And we're like, God, everybody is like struggling and suffering out here. And you feel a little bit isolated.
Yeah.
And then you realize that, there's tons of us. There's millions of us all over the world that get it, that are doing the thing together. We're not alone. And so we work on ourselves. We get fitter, we get better, and then we can't help but make the world a better place around us. We inspire our friends or our family, or we get our kids involved or whatever. You know, you're a better mom, you're a better wife, you're a better manager, you're a better boss, you're a better doctor, you're a better accountant, like whatever the things that matter in your life. So I think doing the open is just a bucket list thing. We've talked about that on the CrossFitter bucket list. You just got to do it. Just be a part of it. Somebody said, I already know how bad I am at CrossFit. I don't need to do the open. And I was like, oh, perfect. You already know how bad you are at CrossFit, so it's not going to be any surprise. So then let's just show up and have fun on a Friday. I guarantee it'll be at least 51% fun.
Yeah. My favorite thing about the open for people is that it forces you to just try things that you often wouldn't. I was talking to Derek Morin today. Shout out to Derek. He said that last year in the open, I think it was, he had never really done toes to bar. He'd done like 1 or 2. And he just like never tried. He always just did knee raises or leg raises or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then he like went and did the open and he just tried. And he did more toes to bar than he ever had. Yeah. And so now a year later, today we just did a old open workout. And it was 10 toes to bar at a time for a 20-minute AMRAP with other stuff. And he RX'd it and got 7 or whatever rounds. And if it wasn't for that kick in the pants, trying the open and forcing him to actually try toes to bar, he would still be continuing to do knee raises and leg raises. You know, sometimes you need that push to make you realize, oh, I can do this. And oh, if I just work on it, it will get better. And, you know, now he's RXing the movement. It's great. That's awesome. Yeah. That's the biggest benefit for the average person that has no desire or care how well they place. It's going to force you to do things that you otherwise won't, and you're going to get better because of it.
Yeah, it makes you like realize what you're capable of. Yeah. One of the questions I asked people a little while ago was like, why do you do CrossFit? And like, dang, we got some good answers. I feel like we could make a whole podcast out of it. And one of the ladies said something that like totally rung true with me. She was like, I just love finding out what I'm capable of. I never knew I could do all these things. Yeah. And you're like, how fucking cool is that? I just love that as a quote. And that's, the open is like a concentrated version of that. You're like, hey, did you ever just try a pull-up? Yeah. And should you be doing 200 of them if it's your first one? No, but could you just try for 10 or 15 minutes in an open workout? Yeah, you'll be fine. It'll be safe. It'll be cool. People will cheer for you. And now you will have unlocked the next level of, oh, I can do that. That is for me. I can work towards that. Like, I think so many people just, I don't know, through like complacency, just have told themselves a story they don't even really realize is in their head of, oh, that's not for me. That thing, that heavy weight, that movement, that skill is like, oh, that's not for me. That's for the fit people. I'll tell you, this is reminding me. So I had that realization about myself with snowboarding recently. I've been snowboarding since my early 20s. I'm 40 now. So like close to 2 decades. For most of that time, I've been content to just cruise on my green runs. I just love, it's like peaceful and relaxing. It's like my form of flow state and meditating, but I never really pushed myself to try anything or get any better. You're a very good snowboarder. Grew up in Canmore. Snowboarding, you do all the cool stuff. You're always doing like jumps and spins and butters and all that stuff. And I was always like, oh, that's for David. David's very athletic. I'm not very athletic. I'm not very well coordinated. I don't pick up skills very easily. So I was like, I'm going to do my green run thing here. That's for David to do all that crazy stuff. But now the kids are getting pretty good at snowboarding. We've been spending a lot of time doing it the last 3 years because it's something we all like. And in order to not get completely left behind by the 3 of you now, I've been having to push myself and try harder things, even to keep up with Dash now. Frick.
I know.
And I've gotten a lot better at snowboarding in the last 3 years versus the 17 years before that. Yep. Because I just finally was like, oh, I could just try things and that could be for me. Starting to do little jumps and go faster and carve straighter and spend more time in the trees and navigate trickier terrain and all this kind of stuff. And it is neat. And I realized like I don't want to say wasted because I always enjoyed the time, but I had limited my ability to make any progress by just showing up and doing the same thing all the time and never trying anything harder or different for a decade and a half. And I think people probably do that with CrossFit. And as long as you know that and you accept it, like fine. But people can show up to CrossFit for 10 or 15 years and get no better. Yeah. If you never try anything new or different or harder.
And I think some people are just like content to maintain, right?
And that's,
if you're whatever X level of fitness at 35 and 10 years later, you're at that same level of fitness at 45, that's still good. A win. Yeah. You know, that's still good because you're fighting off aging, right? Which is great. But you're not out of years yet. You still got time. Yeah. And if you want to get better at these things, you can. You just have to put the time in. And, you know, just like when you're trying new things, snowboarding, sometimes you're going to fall down and sometimes it's going to suck and you're going to be like frustrated and annoyed, but that's part of the learning curve. You know, you have to dedicate the time and put the effort in.
Yeah. So the open gives you a little boost of that, of kind of like, oh, that could be for me. Oh, I could do that. Oh, hey. You also get to see that in other people. That's part of the community thing of being there and seeing those magical moments when it happens for other people. It's so fun. Yeah. So really doing the open is just part of being connected to the global CrossFit community. You just got to do it. Come show up on a Friday night, block off your 3 Fridays. I promise it'll be worth it. It'll be fun. At least 51% fun.
Yeah. A lot of people are like, well, do I have to sign up? Can I still just do the open? And it's okay. It's $20. And I feel like all of us have gained more than $20 worth of value from CrossFit as a whole. Right. Yeah. And the way I look at it, like I don't give a shit about my position on the leaderboard whatsoever, but I am happy to contribute and give back and support the work that goes into the open. It's expensive. It's time consuming. It's a difficult thing to manage. And we all watch the CrossFit Games when it comes out, even one event or part of Instagram or whatever, we all watch it. We all benefit from it. And I feel like it's worth contributing. And even if you don't log a single score, whatever, you know, it's still worth like giving back and being part of the thing to support the other people that is their thing. That is their career. That is their profession. And we do enjoy watching it. We get to see it for free on YouTube or whatever. So it's $20. It's not a big deal.
If you think CrossFit has added $20 worth of value to your life, you know, throw your $20 in the ring and be part of the thing.
For sure.
Do the thing. And even, you know, lots of people are like, well, I'm going to miss one of the Fridays or I'm going to be away or whatever. Yeah, me too. Currently I'm scheduled for 2 of the 3 weekends to be out of town for seminars. I'm going to make it happen no matter what. So try as hard as you can to be there on a Friday night. But if you absolutely cannot, I'm going to have to do the workouts come out Thursdays at, I think it's 2 p.m. our time. I'm going to have to do at least one of them on the Thursday night before I go. So we'll make it happen, even if you're going to be away on a Friday. You can drop into another CrossFit gym. I think I might get to do one of the open workouts at a friend's gym in Montreal, which is, you know, I wish I was going to be with the BRIO community, but I'm happy to do it with another CrossFit community too. That's a treat. Yeah. So if you're away, any CrossFit gym, I would say, is going to be like open and friendly to having a visitor come and drop in and do it with them. Yeah. Or super fun.
Yeah. Or if you just need to organize a different time within our gym, like you're leaving on Friday and you can't make Friday night and you want to do it Thursday, or you want to come back and do it Monday morning or whatever, that's fine. We'll try to make that work for you. We just encourage everybody to do it on Friday because it's part of the community thing. That's the beauty of the open. It's the community and having other people to do it with, where you push yourself and try those new things. Yeah. So you just doing it on Friday mornings because you like working on a Friday morning isn't going to give you the same push as doing it with other people and trying hard as a group.
Yeah, I know. If you're like, oh, but I only like to work out in the morning. Boo. Boo. Just come be part of the thing on a Friday night. You know, it's going to be one of the most fun things you could do on a Friday night, I promise.
Yeah. Well, none of us go out and do anything crazy.
Yeah, come to CrossFit and do something crazy. Sometimes we drink beer after, you know, like it's a social outing as much as it's a fitness outing. So
sign up. Come be part of the thing.
It's part of the thing. We'll have a good time. Yeah. We'll make it happen. This is year 14.
Crazy.
BRIO's been a part of the Open since the very beginning. Team BRIO. And did you know, I don't even know if I told you this. I was talking to one of the affiliate team girls when I was in Texas. So we just signed our affiliate agreement license papers for year 16. There are less than 100 CrossFit affiliates that have been around for more than 15 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that. Less than 100.
Less than 100. And I got thinking that I think Western Canada might have one of the highest concentrations of 15-year affiliates. There's a lot around here. So
because we're all stubborn assholes that have to deal with the winter. And we're just like, yeah, let's just go.
Won't give up. We just keep doing it. CrossFit started in California, kind of grew up the West Coast. CrossFit North, it was at the time in Vancouver, was the 4th CrossFit affiliate ever. And so I think Western Canada was like an early adopter, and there's a lot of us here still doing the thing, sticking with our communities, just like lifers. And that's to me what CrossFit is. It's not the games. It's not the, the getting really fit this year. It's the doing it forever and never giving up and stopping. So yeah, the true cred goes to the BRIO community, the people that keep this whole thing going.
Yep.
For the long term, the lifers, the names on the wall. There's going to be 80 banners going up of people that have done more than 1,000 workouts with us, which is pretty nuts.
That is crazy.
It's crazy. We just can't even get rid of you guys.
Not that we want to.
Okay, so love to everybody in the BRIO community. Thanks for keeping this whole thing going for a decade and a half.
Yep.
And see you in the next one.
See you guys.